Hello, this is Thomas J. Linneman, author of Social Statistics, Managing Data, Conducting Analyses, Presenting Results. This is the SPSS demonstration for Chapter 12 on interaction effects. For this example, for our dependent variable, we're going to use the ANES Vaccine Attitude Index, which is a combination of two questions. For our parent variables, as I like to call them, we're going to use the recoded education variable and the recoded race variable, which uses only whites and blacks. And then for the interaction, we're going to use the combination of those two, the interaction of those two parent variables. Now, the interaction variable already exists in the data set, but let me show you how I created it. To transform compute variable, and then I called it xy. int is what I signify for myself that it's an interaction effect. And then I include the two variables, educ and race wb. And then I just use those two variables, xy educ, multiplied by, remember, we create an interaction effect by multiplying two variables together. And that would be it. So the interaction effect is equal to the two parent variables multiplied together. But again, I already have this variable. So now let's get out of this and run the regression to see what happens. So we go to Analyze Regression Linear. We're going to use the vaccine index as the dependent variable. And then we're going to use the education variable, the race variable, and the interaction between those two. There we go. So the two parent variables and the interaction variable, and we click OK. And we see that together these variables explain about 7% of the variation. We have lots of cases, over 2,900 cases. And most importantly, our interaction effect, the slope is right there. And it does achieve, just barely so, but it does achieve statistical significance. Now remember, we need to interpret all of these together as a family of slopes. And to do that, I am going to create a set of graphs in Excel. So I have Excel ready to go right here. And I'm going to create a column for education. I'm going to have education go from 8 to 20. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 and 20. And then I'm going to have a column for whites and a column for blacks. And I've done a little math to come up with the equation for both whites and blacks. And you see this in the SPSS demonstration in the book. So for whites, the equation is 7.07 plus 0.20 times their years of education. It's saying I have a typo. Oh, yes. Thank you, Excel. Yeah, so 7.07 plus 0.2 times, thank you, Excel, the number of years of education. Now for blacks, the equation is 3.66 plus 0.34 times their years of education. And then I take those, I copy them, and I copy them all the way down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow this up, and I'm going to take these and I'm going to tell Excel that I want a line graph. So I'm going to insert a line graph that looks like that. And I'm not going to do all the formatting, but one thing I do want to show you how to do, and I talk about this in the textbook, and I'd say there that this is an oddly onerous procedure, but once you do it a couple times, it really does go quickly. The trick is down here, we don't want 1 to 13, we want 8 to 20. So to change that, I'm going to click here to activate that axis. I'm going then to right click and then go to select data, and I'm going to edit the horizontal axis labels, and it's asking me what the range for the labels is going to be, and it is these right here. So I just click and drag, and you see it changes that right away, and so I'll click OK and OK. And yes, so here is what we have. And again, you can do all kinds of formatting. Change one of the lines to dotted lines and maybe get rid of this legend down here and put words like you put whites, the word whites on this line, the word blacks on this line. But what we have here is an interesting story where there is, with low levels of education, there is a difference between whites and blacks. But for each additional year of education, blacks catch up a little bit to whites, so that by the time you get to people with high levels of education, there is very little difference between whites and blacks on their attitudes towards vaccines. So, classic interaction story. So that is how you create an interaction effect, run the regression, and create a graph in Excel to illustrate it. And that is the end of this SPSS demonstration.